Wonderful. So welcome. My name is Amy O'Leary, and I'm the Executive Director at Strategies for Children. And Jeremy, we can go to the next slide. Here are our protocols for our agenda meeting. So you can add to chat who's in the room, your name, your pronouns, and your affiliation and organization. We encourage you to have cameras on, but we know that folks are in the middle of probably multitasking. We are recording the meeting. We will have recordings available both in English and Spanish. Please mute your mic when you're not speaking, and please use the chat. We have plenty of our team monitoring the chat. We will save the chat. So please name, pronouns, organization in the chat. It's great to hear, to see who's zooming in. And then as we go to our next slide, we want to talk about the protocol that we have developed through this agenda process. And so as we continue on this meeting, we would love for you to rename yourself using this Elevating Voices Continuum. So if you are a number 1, you are the caregiver of a young child, birth through age 8, and or you interact with children and families every day. If you are a 2, you interact with children and families occasionally. And if you are a 3, you don't interact regularly with children and families, but you have a vested interest. So if you go to your Zoom square, there's 3 dots on the right. You can pick rename, and I'm going to do it myself. So I'm a 3 and hit change. And there I am. I've changed my name to number 3, Amy O'Leary. And the intention of this technique is not to prioritize one voice over the other, but really make sure we're creating space for those with lived experience and to include different perspectives. And so as we get going, we're very busy in the chat and renaming and doing a lot of logistics in the beginning. Please add what your favorite part of the transition to fall is. You can add it in the chat or raise your hand because raise your Zoom hand because we'd love to have folks come live and share. We'll have 3 people share. So what's your favorite part of the transition to fall? We see pumpkin spice everything. I know people are sometimes waiting for that to happen. The possibilities in the shift, I love that. Weta weta, great. We know that's important. Halloween. The fall festivals. Wonderful. This is so great to see everyone's fall favorite parts of fall. So just as we keep going around logistics, first to rename yourself a 1, 2, or 3, you're going to go to your Zoom window, click on the 3 dots at the top of the screen on the right, and then at the bottom of the drop-down menu, you'll see rename, and you can add a 1, 2, or 3 in front of your name. So 1s work with children and families every day, 2s occasionally work with children and families, and 3s don't work directly with children and families but have a vested interest. And then we're adding to the chat your name, your pronouns, your affiliation, and your favorite part of the fall transition. I also just want to remind people as we're speaking, with language interpretation, it's best if we go slow, which we can sometimes forget when we're all talking together. So please just remember that we're translating and it's helpful for the interpreters that we go slow so that we have an even pace for the meeting. So anyone raising their Zoom hand to let us know that they are here and that they want to share their fall transition. Anybody want to raise their hand or just come off mute?
We have Pamela ready to go, Amy. So
all
Pamela,
right, Pamela, let's hear it.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. So excited to be here. My favorite thing about the fall transition, my wife and I have a tradition every year that we do all the fall things on Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day weekend. So we travel to our local, not really local, our small family-owned orchard and do the apple picking and the pumpkin picking and the cider donuts and the apple cider. And then we found this random burrito place that we have burritos afterwards for lunch. And we do the same thing every year, and it's like a big deal for us for the weekend. So we look forward to that all the time. And I would agree with a lot of people in the chat about sweater weather and tea season.
Wonderful. Thanks, Pamela. Maybe one more person to share. Sarah.
I just wanted to say it. Sweater weather.
Great. And for those of you who don't know, that's a Saturday Night Live skit made famous by Maya Rudolph and Amy Poehler. Great. Well, we also want to let you know that there are our full Strategies for Children team is on the Zoom today. And we're going to skip their introductions, but know that Titus, Marissa, Marge, Neri, me, Jeremy, and Amanda are all here on the call, and we're happy to keep active to chat. You'll hear from some of us, and you're going to hear from our partners as well. So we can go to the next slide, Jeremy. There we are. Look at that. And here's the agenda. We went through the house rules and introductions. We're going to have announcements from the work groups. We're going to look back. We're going to look ahead. Hear from the updates of our coalition partners. We're going to do another group map activity, and we are going to unveil our new website, which we are so excited to do, and then talk a little about next steps, including our next quarterly meeting. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to my colleague, Marissa Fear, and if folks could give some love and the emojis in chat for Marissa, who has really been our lead on working on the early childhood agenda. So Marissa, thank you so much, and I'm going to turn things over to you.
Yes, great call. So we will go ahead and put that in the chat. And actually, Jeremy, I think I'm going to pull up, this seems like this is an old version of the slide deck. So if we want to pull up the one from the email really quickly, and I'll go ahead and put that in the chat right now too for the Spanish translation. Marissa, who keeps the trains running.
And Kathy Blackwell, there is instructions in chat about how to change your name. Thank you.
Yeah, it was hard to explain that, Kathy. I was trying to type it as fast as I could because I knew Amy was going to call me quickly. And I was like, well, you hover over I'll do that quickly. So you hover over the picture at the top of the screen, and then it should say mute or unmute, and then there should be 3 dots there. So when you click on the 3 dots, a bunch of options pop up, and then you scroll to the very bottom and it says rename, and that gives you an opportunity to change your name on Zoom. All right, so here is the link to the Spanish slides. And we have the Spanish slides, the English slides, as well as the agenda for today in that Google folder. So you should be able to find all 3 of those there. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the reminder. We meant to put that in at the beginning and forgot. Here, you know what? I can just pull up my screen and share too. It's easy enough.
Marissa, I can do it so you can. I can do it so you can see. We all know that story.
I'm good. Okay, so we're going to talk really quickly about the past year. We were reflecting at a staff meeting and realized that on October 19th, it's going to be the 1 year of the early childhood agenda. So we wanted to talk a little bit about what we have accomplished over the past year.
We are hearing you.
Yeah, I was just wondering that. I can hear it right now.
Yep.
I can still hear you. I don't hear anything anymore.
I can hear you in the Spanish room. I changed it.
Okay, so it must have flipped back. All right. So just for some framing, Early Childhood Agenda was launched in October of 2022. We spent the next 3 or 4 months developing these 10 priorities together. We'll talk a little bit on the next slide about how that was developed and how many people participated in that process. And now we're in this implementation phase where we are trying to make progress on all 10 of the Early Childhood Agenda's priorities and work together to establish this new work group structure, as well as to support our coalition partners in their campaigns. So throughout the fall, over 1,000 individuals participated in the development of the agenda. We saw that 65% of those individuals work with children and families every day, and more than half have a young child under the age of 8 themselves. We had statewide representation, over 50 individuals from each region of Massachusetts. It took us 4 months and 8 meetings and a lot of conversation in between, a lot of group maps. And we sort of finished this process with a survey that was translated into 7 different languages. And here is the Early Childhood Agenda one-pager. And this is where you'll be able to see the 10 priorities. We've named facilitators, as well as sort of a description of the process that we went through together in the fall and how we came to develop these Early Childhood Agenda priorities. And what we're so excited to share today, a little bit later on, is that we have a website to go along with this one-pager now. So we've built out a little bit of the behind the scenes infrastructure for the Early Childhood Agenda over the past few months. A little bit about the structure. So of those 10 priorities, they're really split into 2 different pathways, 1 coalitions and 1 work groups. For the coalitions, you'll see that there are 6 coalitions named there. These are coalitions that were already in place, that were actively working on one of the priorities that the Early Childhood Agenda elevated. You'll also see that there are 7 different work groups. And these work groups are 7 different topics where we know that it was a priority of the Early Childhood Agenda, but there maybe wasn't an established coalition already working on this, or a group that had come together to discuss that issue area. So what we've done is launched these new work groups, partnering with organizations and friends who are part of the Early Childhood Agenda to facilitate them. And we see those as working in partnership with the coalitions moving forward. And you might also be looking at this and say to yourself, 6 and 7 do not add up to 10. I don't understand how the math makes sense here. Which really was, it just was our way of, 1, covering a little bit more of the issue areas and sort of dividing them up a little bit. So you'll see that we have 3A, 3B, 7A, 7B, 10A, 10B. So that's where the discrepancy in the number comes through there. And I'll just give an example. Priority number 10 was around early childhood hunger. And we knew that the Project Red and the Feed Kids Coalition was working on a massive campaign to make universal school meals permanent in Massachusetts. We just became the 8th state in the country to do that last 3 weeks ago. And we also know that we needed to have a space to discuss early childhood hunger beginning at birth, which obviously was not covered under that campaign. So that was one of the ways where we're sort of supporting and connecting folks to an existing campaign, while also acknowledging that we need to start to have some conversations and set up a space to focus on hunger starting at birth as well. All right, so this is a little bit about the work group progress. So you can see here what we have looking forward. So we have these 7 different work groups. 4 of them established partnerships in the summer, and 3 of them we are finalizing or have just finalized partnerships starting in the fall. The first meeting for 3 of the work groups were in August or September, and we are going to be announcing some of these upcoming meetings on the website moving forward. So that's where you'll be able to see all the updates and sort of track where the meeting times will be, when you can be involved on the various different work groups. But we wanted to give you all a sense of how these work groups have launched and where they are in the process. All right, so now what we're going to do is I'm actually going to turn it over to my coworker, Amanda, and she's going to facilitate a conversation with the work group facilitators. So we're going to ask our facilitators, I think we spotlight them actually would be a great idea. And then we're going to, in true early childhood fashion, we're going to play a little game called Rosebud Thorn. Just a quick way to highlight something that's it's working well, that they're looking forward to in the future, and that maybe is a challenge or that they are a little nervous about. So I'm going to turn it over to Amanda to explain our game, and then we can go ahead and I'll stop sharing screen and we can spotlight our facilitators.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Amanda. I'm a project manager here at Strategies for Children. And today, with our current work group leader, we're going to be doing Rosebud Thorn. If you don't do it already, you really should. I do it with my friends. I did it with my students. Great way to think about what's going well, what's not going great yet, and maybe what you're really hopeful for. So we're actually going to start with Carla from group 4, who's here and has to pop out first. Oh, Carla and Titus, it looks like. And so we're going to go Rose, something that's going well, Carla. Bud, something you're looking forward to. And then, no, let's do Rose, Thorn, Bud. Rose, something that's going well. Thorn, something that's maybe a little trickier. And Bud, something you're looking forward to. Go for it.
I will start, and then Titus actually has our notes for this. So Titus, please jump in if I don't capture some of what we talked about. So I would say our Rose at this point is we held our first meeting. We had great attendance, and there's a lot of interest in the topic, which is really exciting to see that there is so much interest in focusing on kind of developmental screening. So this is work group number 4.
Yeah,
sorry.
And can you just give a brief snippet of what it is, and for everybody else that follows? Thanks.
Yeah, so priority number 4 is focused on developmental screening and monitoring, and generally the systems that support families in going through all the kind of steps of those processes. So our roses that we've had great interest, been really excited to get started and having conversations with folks. We had our first meeting and sent out an initial survey and got a good number of responses on that. So we are, I would say, I forget what order I was supposed to do them in, Amanda, but our bud is sort of that we are, I think, well positioned going into the next meeting to have a good conversation with folks about the areas that people are most interested in focusing on, and then, moving steps towards setting some goals. And then I would say the thorn is that it's a big topic, and there's a lot of pieces. We have developmental screening, monitoring, referrals, transitions, delivery of services. I'm sure I'm missing other people. There's a lot of pieces in it. And so I think our challenge as a group is going to be how we set goals that are sort of right-sized to what we can do. How we set goals that are, some small goals to get to a bigger goal so that we can feel like we're really moving the work. And that as we may start to drift into some of the areas that we choose not to focus on as much, that we will sort of need to bring ourselves back. And Titus, if I missed anything, please add on.
Thanks, Carla. Well, I'm like the liaison between Strategies for Children and the facilitators. So I'm participating in this group with Carla from the United Way of Mass Bay and Merrimack Valley. And our other co-facilitator who couldn't be here today is Kate Barlow from the Massachusetts Act Early. And she's the ambassador from the CDC for our state. Many of you may know her. So I think between the three of us, we've got a really good system down now for planning, organization, putting together agendas, putting together surveys for in-between meetings, and starting to use Basecamp to archive our progress. So it's very exciting. I'm very hopeful that we'll make some good progress on this screening and referral piece because it's so important, and I'm glad it was part of the agenda. And there are a lot of passionate people in the field, many of you on this call who are in our work group or who signed up for our work group who are interested in this. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Titus and Carla. Let's pass it over to Amy O'Leary, who's facilitating work group number 2. Amy, Rose, Thorn, Bud.
Thanks so much. I'm going to call on Annie Dade, who's also here with us from the Center for the Study of the Child Care Workforce. So last night, the Workforce Warriors reconvened at 6 p.m. last night and had our initial meeting. I should just kind of structural wise, a team member from Strategies will be part of each work group. And in this case, I'll be helping facilitate with Annie. So Annie, I don't know if you just want to give a quick overview. We are so excited to be working with the Center It's been in the works for a while. We were so excited to announce it. But just Annie, a quick update for what we did last night.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. I'm Annie. I'm a policy analyst at the Center for the Study of Childcare Employment over at UC Berkeley. Um, and yeah, we just had our first convening yesterday. We talked a little bit about the goals for the work group and had what's that app called? Mind map? Brain map?
Group map.
Group map about sort of like burning topics and questions and concerns. And I think especially some interesting conversations already brewing around how to define compensation, how to define the early care and education workforce, how to make sure it's equitable across the sector. Yeah, so I think it's going to be a really great year together. I'll just share for myself, a rose is that I'm coming to this work working with Strategies for Children as part of our Bold on Compensation learning community, which works across 7 states around advancing early educator compensation. And so for me, one of the joys of that work is thinking about how we're stronger as a movement and making connections across states. And so I'm actually gonna be really excited and learn a lot from you all around what you're doing in the Massachusetts context, where it seems like y'all have political will, there's funding out there, so we can actually just not put words on a page, but really think about how to make compensation actionable. So that's my rose. So thank you.
And I would echo Carla's thorn is just more how are we going to narrow it? How are we going to also get beyond early education and care and think about the other parts of the early childhood agenda? So I just put the center's website in, and Marissa, I'll turn it back, or Amanda, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thanks, Amy and Annie. Let's hear from Kim and Eve, or both and or whoever's here from Edward Street, and they are running Agenda Priority 6, Local Infrastructure and Partnerships.
Thank you
Kim?
so much, Amanda. Kim isn't able to be with us today, but I'm happy to speak on behalf of our coalition group. We are excited. We're off and running. We had an early meeting in the efforts back in the end of August, and then re-met with our support, Marissa, from Strategies to debrief. We have a great collection of folks who want to participate with us, including some funders, which is really helpful because we know that's going to spread our information even further. And we have a wonderful opportunity in working with Urban Institute, who has done some very relevant and timely research around partnerships and different types of programs and coalitions that have sprung up across the state over the last decade that we're going to use to help inform the work as we move forward. In terms of Rose, we are excited about being able to look at products that will help the coalitions and different programmatic efforts around aspects of early childhood, be it home visiting or screening or early education and care, high quality, or workers' compensation. All those issues sort of spring up in the different coalitions that we've been starting to talk with. There's an enormous amount of information out there, and so I repeat the same cautions that others have. The thorn is figuring out how we narrow it down and produce some outcomes and products that are useful to the participants, but more broadly to the state and the field that is advocating on behalf of those varied opportunities for early childhood and young children. Our BUD is, we're still waiting to get our family and lived experience voice on our committee, but we've got some good names, so we're hoping to have that aspect of the work fulfilled. And we're just really enthusiastic about what's coming down the pike. I think, our future meetings, sharing a little bit more about what we're learning and who we're hearing from is going to be a very advantageous part of this work. So thanks for the opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you, Eve. And our last work group is number 9, Linking Health and Early Childhood Systems. I believe Allison, Alex, and Janet are here. So if any one of you would like to take the lead, let's hear your Rosebud Thorn.
Hey, folks. Allison, Janet, feel free to jump in if and when I mistake or you want to add anything to the what I'm going to say. Thank you to everybody. We're work group number 9. We are focused on the linkages between healthcare and early childhood, and we have had 3 3 meetings amongst ourselves and with Strategies for Children to try and figure out how we are going to get our hands wrapped around this big conversation and topic. Because like some of the other folks have said, it certainly is, we could go in any number of a dozen different directions with this particular topic. For Rose, Bud, and Thorn, following the rules here, I think Rose is certainly that there are a tremendous number of opportunities that we have here, some of which are in sort of like the short term low hanging fruit, and some of which are sort of our medium and longer term big hairy audacious goals that we want to tackle and try and overcome with policy and intervention, and trying to figure out how do we break those two things out and make sure that we have momentum for those bigger things, along with accomplishing some of our low-hanging fruits that we know are some of the challenges in the intersection and at the intersection between healthcare and early childhood. The Rose, Bud, and Thorn, I would say our Thorn is very similar to other folks in saying that there are a lot of things that are potentials. I would say one of our other challenges is that healthcare is perpetually one of those industries that is always very busy. And so when we think about our pediatricians, when we think about our pediatric providers and our family medicine clinics, they're booked every 15 minutes for all 15 minutes from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m. And so one of the things that we are trying to tackle is the idea that if we want healthcare to be intimately involved in being part of the solution to the conversation, we need to figure out times and mechanisms to get them to the table. And part of that is thinking a little bit differently of how do we engage these folks in ways that aren't set meeting times or set meeting schedules, but getting a collective voice of a different and diverse voices to the table, knowing and recognizing that they have to be met where they are in different ways. And so tackling that challenge and thinking about that approach has been some of the big things that we've been grappling with as a group. Allison, Janet, anything to add?
I think that was great. I'm not sure what you said because my captions are coming in non-English, non-Spanish. So I'm getting no captions and I'm deaf for the group. So I will assume you said everything perfectly. That's usually your way. I think we're moving in the right direction. We have, very little thorns. I would say just sort of some things that we're trying to overcome related to getting access to the medical doctors and folks in the medical profession. And I think, we're really excited to be working on this and have Neri helping us with it, and really would love to have more folks from this group, if anyone's interested, to kind of chime in on our work group, because I do think we have a big task ahead of us, but we're ready for it and really excited to be moving forward.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Work Group 9, Alex, Allison, and Janet. And let's pass it over to Marissa to hear about our new work groups.
Thanks so much, Amanda. And Allison, let me know in the chat if I fixed it. I think I might have fixed the captions, but I'm not positive.
You fixed it. Thank you so much. I don't know how you did that.
Sorry about that. Good to know. So yes, I hope that hearing from the work group facilitators, putting a face to a name, and hearing a little bit about the work and some of these updates was exciting. And as I saw Amy put in the chat earlier, all these work groups are still recruiting. So, these are open to everyone. Anyone can join, whether it's you or someone in your personal networks. And even if you can't attend the meeting times, but you want to be able to contribute on Basecamp or sort of virtually, that's fine too. So we're going to go ahead and we can share in the chat the sign up form. If you have any interest in any of those work groups at all, go ahead and sign up, and then you'll at least be in the loop and you'll continue to get updates around the work moving forward. All right, so I think Jeremy is going to pop up our slides again, and then we will continue on. All right, so we're also really excited to announce that we are sort of finalizing our partnerships with the remaining 3 work groups. So for priority number 5, which is around building a quality improvement infrastructure, we're going to be partnering with Neighborhood Villages. Priority number 8, which is going to be around developing a public education campaign. We are partnering with the Boston Area Reggio Inspired Network, Barron. And then for priority number 10, we know that Project Red, while they are now sunsetting the previous campaign, since they have secured universal school meals, that they're looking forward to a larger campaign, a really big umbrella around ending hunger in Massachusetts. And that early childhood is going to be a component of that. And we'll see how that all develops over the next few months. But we'll be directing folks sort of to that group in some way moving forward. So I think we have Hillary here. So I might just give you a second, Hillary, to come live and you can share
Absolutely.
a little bit. Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to spotlight you for the group.
Sure. Thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Hillary O'Doy. I am taking on the public ed campaign number 8, and I'm so grateful to be here and to have this opportunity. I have over 30 years of experience in the field, probably in every role possible. I am absolutely thrilled to be in the classroom, moving back into a 1, not a 2 or a 3, but I'm a 1 every day in the classroom as a teacher at Charlestown Nursery School, which I just started a few weeks ago. So I am right in, I don't want to say the trenches because it's a great place to be, but I am really excited to be pulling forward high quality care and to be advocating for teachers as well as children and families through this work. So we have a Mind Hive in Barron that is amazing, but we are really looking for more people to join us. We haven't quite gotten started yet. We're going to be targeting our October meeting date soon. So please join us. I think for me, I'm thinking about this through a marketing lens, and I don't know a lot about marketing. I know a lot about early childhood ed, but I think we're really trying to figure out how to really zoom in and make this a really powerful campaign. So I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Hillary. I think we can all second that marketing is definitely not necessarily any of our strong suits. So we're excited to learn about it, excited to partner with those who do have that expertise. And that's definitely one of the work groups that I'm really excited about moving forward.
Absolutely. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. So looking forward, we also wanted to share a few updates from our coalitions. So I'll take a few of these and I'll pass it off to Jeremy, who can share a few more. Some of our coalition partners are here, but we worked with them to sort of pull together these slides that give you a sense of what's happened over the past few months since our last meeting, and then what might be in action moving forward for you all. So for the Common Start Coalition, which is advocating for early education and care, there was a huge increase in the state budget this year. So we saw that there was around $1.5 billion for early education and care. That's a 22% increase over the last year and the largest investment in the sector to date. And we included a couple of the specific line items there and the increases that we saw to those line items. We did see that there were vetoes to early education and care funding within that line item from the governor. And so we're working with our partners to pursue sort of an override strategy within the legislature, whether it's a sign-on letter or some other campaigns. Stay tuned for that, and we'll share any updates as they come with that. We also wanted to share that since our last meeting, the Common Start Coalition did hold a family-friendly rally at the State House on July 13th. So we've included a recap of that event as well as the Common Start Coalition's website on this page so you can read more about their work there. And we also wanted to include the save the date for the Joint Committee on Education's bill hearing, which is on October 17th of 2023. And you can RSVP through the Common Start Coalition at the link there. They're going to be organizing transportation and sort of just the day of events for anything related to participants of the Common Start Coalition who want to be testifying that day as well. So that is our update from Common Start. And next up, we have Lift Our Kids Coalition, which is advocating for an increase to cash assistance programs. We saw that there was a 10% increase in cash assistance programs this year, and that becomes effective in April of 2024. This is the 4th increase in 4 years after decades of frozen benefit levels. Overall, this means a 45% increase in cash assistance benefits since December of 2020. Even with those increases, grants are still far below the level of deep poverty, which is set at about 50% of the federal poverty level. And so the coalition also is pursuing a bill strategy which would set the floor for financial assistance at that deep poverty level. And then it would increase financial assistance by 25% a year until the grants reach that level. So we've included the link to their website there, as well as the sign up to get email alerts. Looking back, the coalition participated in the bill hearing on September 12th at the Joint Committee on Children, Families, and Persons with Disabilities. You can watch the recording on the link there. And then looking forward, the committee is actually still accepting written testimony. So if you are interested in submitting written testimony in support of the Lift Kids Out of Deep Poverty bill, instructions to submit are on this slide here. And then if you do end up doing that, please send a copy to Naomi Meyer, who I think actually just joined us. I saw her name pop up a minute ago. By September 29th. Perfect timing, Naomi. By September 29th, so that they can include your written testimony in a packet that is going to be submitted on behalf of Lift Our Kids Coalition. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over.
Marissa, can I just add really quickly that if you have any questions about how to do testimony or what, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Naomi. All right, I'm going to turn it over to Jeremy now for our next two updates.
All right, hey everybody, I'm Jeremy, one of the project managers for the Early Childhood Agenda. Really excited to be here and see everybody. So just wanted to go over some exciting updates from the Healthy Families Tax Credits Coalition. And this slide we were updating just this morning because there were some really exciting announcements that came out. If you've been following this closely, you probably know. So when the budget had passed, the legislature had set aside $581 million for this big anticipated tax relief package. And I believe either this morning or last night, they released the details of the tax relief package, and that included an increase in the earned income tax credit match rate from 30% to 40% of the federal credit. So that's going to increase financial support for about 400,000 families throughout the state. And that's something that the coalition has been advocating for. And then the other big point here is the increase in the child and family tax credit, which is going to start at $310 in 2023, and then will grow to $440 in 2024, and will help households with over 1 million dependents achieve some level of financial security. So this is exciting. You can stay tuned for updates from the Healthy Families Tax Credit Coalition on bill signing celebration, and you can learn more about them at their website, which is linked here. And feel free to reach out to Charlotte Bruce for more information about what their next steps will be.
I will add, thank Jeremy. Just wanted to plug Jeremy. Jeremy did a joint internship with the Tax Coalition and Strategies last year. So it's been key to our gaining competency and understanding and just having that connection. So Jeremy, just wanted to give you a shout out for that.
Thanks. I was at the right place at the right time, I guess. And then we've also got some updates from the Feed Kids Coalition, so the group to end child hunger in the state. As many of you probably know, the fiscal 2024 budget passed, and it included universal school meals. And we're very excited about this, of course. So this makes Massachusetts the 8th state to make free school meals available for all students, and it's a permanent program. Every student who wants or needs breakfast or lunch will receive these meals at no cost to their families. And the cost is mainly covered by federal national school lunch program combined with supplemental state reimbursement. It also establishes a commission to study nutrition standards and guidelines for school meals served in K through 12 public schools. And the implementation is encouraging schools to support SNAP outreach. So there's some other important provisions in this program as well. And you can learn more about this at the Feed Kids campaign website, which is also here. And if you want to take some action, there's a link here where you can thank Governor Healy and the legislature for passing this really important legislation.
All right, and our final two coalition updates. The first is from Child and Adolescent Health Initiative, which is working on establishing a children's cabinet in Massachusetts state government. So we have two bills that were filed, one in the House, one in the Senate, and they're moving on sort of separate tracks. They're in two different committees, which means two different bill hearings and different dates moving forward. So we've included some of that information here. The bill that was filed in the House had its bill hearing already, actually in late July. And the bill that was filed in the Senate has not had a bill hearing yet. We also included Amy's testimony here because she did attend the House's bill hearing and testify on behalf of this bill there. So just to give an example of some testimony there for you all as we look forward for the Senate sort of movement on this bill. And then the next one is the Common Application Coalition. So this, again, similar to Feed Kids, we saw that the Common Application was passed into state law in 2022. It directs the development of a common application in Massachusetts for public benefits and lists a few benefit examples there. The implementation update that we have is that in June of 2023, Governor Healy announced $40 million in state and federal funding towards the Integrated Eligibility and Enrollment Readiness Project as part of a 5-year capital investment plan, which will be related to this common application progress. So it's a step in the right direction. We often know that passing a law is one piece of the puzzle, but without implementation funding, it's really hard to move the bar on that. So really excited to see some funding go towards these projects, and we'll keep up to date with implementation moving forward. And if there are opportunities to get involved, we'll track that as well. And Amy, I thought you wanted to give one more update before we move on to our next activity.
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm just gonna remind everybody as we're going into the next things to speak slowly as we are giving our updates for the translation. We also know that there was an informational hearing held by the Joint Committee on Education on September, I always get the date wrong, 14th. And it was an incredible opportunity to give testimony on the issues and not necessarily react to a bill. We can put the link in the chat. We've blogged about the hearing, and we've also highlighted 2 testifiers, Donna Danette and Ellen Dietrich, who spoke from the provider perspective. And just remembering that when we are telling our stories and connecting it to policy, it is a winning combination. The chairs and committee members were kind of on the edge of their seats listening to the testimony coming from people who are working from the ones. So we really want to keep that in mind when we think about the hearing on October 17th. What voices will be prioritizing, how we connect what people's experiences to what the policy changes need to be. And speaking of changes, we at Strategies for Children have an exciting announcement that we did this week. We announced this week that was a new chair of our board, Sally Fuller, and I'm going to spotlight her here. Sally Fuller has served on our board. Many of you may know Sally from her work at the Davis Foundation, and Georgia Davis Foundation in Springfield, and the work around early literacy. So Sally, I just want to welcome you to the agenda meeting and give you a minute to say hello.
Hello. I've been a number 3 for a long time, longer than I'm going to acknowledge, but a really long time, and involved with Strategies for Children just about that long. I cannot tell you all how incredible this work is, and I think the most important part that I am experiencing is that the partnerships, the collaboration, the coalitions that have come together to do this work are nothing short of mind-blowing. I don't know anywhere else in the country where this kind of work is happening. So all I can say is you folks, most of you are number 1s, and you're the people doing the work every day. And for that, I'm going to share that with the board. For that, I want to share with you my immense gratitude. And I want to just say how proud I am to be part of this work in a number 3 kind of way. You can count on me. You can count on my sharing with the board. I want you to know that as you are working together to strengthen this work, to build this work, we are working to build and strengthen our board. And all of that is happening so that we can really support this incredible, wonderful, terrific, magnificent mind-blowing work that you're doing. So thank you all. Thank you to everybody. And I'm just happy to be on the train with you.
You're muted, Amy.
I'm muted here 3 years later. Thank you so much. We so appreciate your leadership and the leadership of our board members. And we are excited to think about kind of our own infrastructure at Strategies for Children and what it will kind of take to continue this work going forward. I also will just add that I want to thank the folks that we have heard from today. We know we are going at a rapid pace to fit in all these updates. And you will see at the end of the meeting when we unveil the updated website that it really is designed to help you connect with and hear the updates and be interactive with the content. But I think, as Sally said, we are really excited to see how this is all going to work out, and just really appreciate folks for kind of trusting the process, joining in, bringing their skills, their experiences, their resources, and their incredible personal commitment to this work. So I'm going to turn things over to Marissa. And please keep the chat going. We are trying to answer the chat as we go. But right now, as we kind of shift to the next part of our agenda, if folks have questions, they want clarification about something, if you add it to the chat, we can also work it into our discussions later in this meeting. So thanks. I'll turn it back to Marissa.
Thanks, Amy. And I think I'll sort of round out the past two comments there with just a huge thank you. So for the past half an hour, we've been hearing from work group facilitators, hearing these coalition updates, and there's a lot of really exciting work happening. And whether it's our work group facilitators or you all who are attending these meetings and are helping to form these groups, and then our coalition partners, none of this would be happening without you. And I think especially for our coalition partners, we know that they're the ones that are really doing a lot of the work to get this to see progress in these issue areas, and it's really exciting. So continue to learn more about these issue areas, join new coalitions, join the work groups, stay involved. But we're really excited to see it coming together. And this is sort of still the messy middle. We're figuring out how this will all work as we move forward. But exciting to see so much progress over the past few months. All right, so now we are going to transition a little bit to a group map activity. And then we'll finish off the day talking about the new website. So with the group map activity, what we wanted to do here is really just talk about partnerships within the early childhood agenda and who is here at these tables, who's been involved, who hasn't, who do we need to reach out to. And so we've written a couple sort of prompting comments on the side here. And then once you get into the activity, you'll be able to see a little bit more. But we're wondering, do you know a provider, a center, an individual, an organization that isn't involved in the agenda yet, but should be? Maybe it's a friend or a colleague, a neighbor, an organization that you drive past every day. Share with us as much information as possible, and we'll do the rest. We'll do the outreach, but we're gearing up for a pretty large outreach campaign. So we wanted to sort of use our collective networks and start the conversation together. So I'm going to go ahead and add our group map link to the chat. And then we can all pop in there for a little bit and see some responses.
And I'll just add, as Marissa's doing this, it has been such an incredibly helpful tool. We've used it in the work of the agenda. We've also used it, we used it this morning on the 9:30 call to collect information. And so if you click on the link, you'll be able to join the group map. So and Marissa is logged in as me, which is why my photo is showing up with her name. And we will also, Marissa, are you going to share your screen so folks can see it as it gets populated? So we'll also make sure that folks can see it. The other beauty of Group Map is we can keep this open to continuously collect information. So if you're watching in the recording, we will, as I'm thinking we're putting a million things in chat, we will add a document where we have all the links that we've shared during our live meeting so that you'll have access to them as you're watching the recording. And so, okay, Marissa, I'll turn things over to you to keep going.
Yeah, perfect. All right, so what we've done here is we've organized the 7 work groups into 7 different sections, and we're just looking for some ideas here. So whether it's, again, an individual that you're working with directly or someone that you drive by every day on your way to work,
Marissa,
go ahead and...
I'm also going to remind you to speak slowly.
Thank you. we really are just looking for some ideas and connections here. I think one of the things that we have been constantly repeating to ourselves is that we want this to be beyond early education and care, that our organization has traditionally worked in that space, and a lot of our networks and our partners work in that space, and that we are thinking about this as a holistic early childhood experience. And we know that that means a lot of other professionals, a lot of other sectors. And so wanting to think about who we should partner with and who we should make sure are part of these work groups and conversations moving forward. So we'll leave this open. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, only because this isn't the most fun group app activity to read responses for everyone. We'll spend a few minutes as the responses populate, but then we'll go into a little bit of our website, and then if we have some extra time at the end for questions and comments from you all, we'll transition to that. So I'm seeing some responses populate here. The Massachusetts Early Intervention Consortium for Developmental Monitoring, Screening, Evaluation, and Services. That's a great idea. Funders willing to step up for workforce compensation, the Chambers of Commerce, employers of all sizes. For local infrastructure, thinking about mayors or those who represent and work with mayors. So really the sort of local governance piece. For public education campaign, young parents, single moms and dads, families and educators, museums. I'm seeing school committees for local infrastructure, superintendents, the Ed Navigator. Find help. They have a map with resources. Nice. This is exactly what we were hoping would happen. We have a very long Excel list running right now that has a lot of suggestions for each of these work groups, and just, based on conversations that we've had or some of the feedback that you all have given us up until this point, but wanted to get a little bit more input before we do this big outreach for the work groups moving forward. Seeing Project Red.
Want to highlight the quality improvement. We've heard on the 9:30 call, kind of as we come out of like a crisis to stabilization, and as the secretary would say, that we're going to heal and then reform. As you think about quality, kind of where is that showing up for folks? We know that there are folks, we're going to have strong start on the 9:30 call tomorrow morning to hear about kind of the statewide professional development system. We know quality also can show up in higher education about what's getting covered. We know right now our quality improvement system in Massachusetts, like many states, is on hold. But we're also hearing this kind of want from people who are doing the work every day that, like, I want to make sure that our quality is getting acknowledged, that we're figuring out how to best measure it, because we also know how closely quality is tied to the workforce. And I guess that's one of the things that we maybe should have said explicitly, that so many parts of these work groups overlap with each other, which is why we wanted to have a Strategies for Children staff member on each of the work groups, just so we can hear and reconvene and say, oh, in the local infrastructure, this came up, and we know that connects directly to this. I would also say that as you're filling out the group map, even if you think it's so obvious, there's no way we wouldn't have thought of it, please add it to the group map. And I'm also going to encourage you to, as we're encouraging ourselves internally, to think beyond early education and care. And that's been great to see, the workforce, the Chamber of Commerce's, the Mass Hire, but we know that each of you in your experience are thinking about these areas in very different ways. And the other piece is this would be really helpful in your own network. So like at a staff meeting, in a newsletter, if you're communicating with families, especially parents, and we know they're busy, but just in a way, somehow that we can collect these information, that we can, and even if you send us the information, we can upload it into the group map. But you see what we're trying to do here. We want to make sure that this table is being set and created, and that is as thoughtful as possible.
And I see Brian's comment in the chat, which I think is a really good one, which is that, this organizes it based on the 7 individual priorities. And sort of categorize as partners based on those priorities. So what I'm going to do after this is add another category, which is just general, which is, if there's someone that and you're connected to that you think should be involved in the agenda, but not quite sure where they might be interested or where they might want to see themselves or participate in the work groups, we'll add that general category. So when you come back to this in the follow-up materials, you'll be able to add some comments there too.
I guess another capacity that we are building, and Amanda is really helping with us, is really looking at the bills that have been filed this session at the State House. And so it's a 2023, 2024 legislative session. So we know that we'll have 2 budgets in those 2 years, but we have 2 years for bills to become law. And so as we are thinking about the hearing on October 17th, that will be a set of bills that will be heard that day on early education and care. We know the bill around early literacy that can have some implications for early ed. That hearing happened over the summer. So Amanda is really helping us build our own capacity to also think broader, like where is there legislation that's already been filed? As we gear up already, the fall is when you start thinking about next budget, even though we just got this budget passed. And I guess now Sandy Sachs added to the chat about talking a little bit about the overrides. And so as Sally mentioned, the governor vetoed about $38 million. I hope I have that number correct, in early education and care. We have been working with partners like Head Start and MADGA and the Parent Child Home Program to check in and advocate with legislators, because our legislature could take up these overrides, these vetoes, and override them, which mean that if they vote to override the veto, then it will be reversed. It's like a reverse Uno card. It will be reversed and it will be in the budget. And so, we know, as Jeremy shared, that the tax package is kind of happening today and yesterday. So, and we are expecting the overrides in the next few weeks. Sandy, I can follow up with information just to you. If you're connected to a group that's working on the overrides, we've been thinking about, and just want to make sure the timing works, to do a sign-on letter so that we can kind of all speak out about wanting to make sure the legislature hears us and is considering overriding for the governor's vetoes. So Sandy, I'm happy to kind of talk offline, but and Titus, thank you. Put the recap of the state budget in the chat. We also know that the new fiscal year starts on July 1st, but the budget was not passed until August. And so there was a bit of a delay. And so just making sure that everyone knows kind of the process is a key point, and thinking about what that means for each of your programs. So thanks, Titus. And Marissa, back to you.
So before we transition to our next little bit here, I just wanted to see if there was anyone who wanted to share some thoughts live about partners that we should be thinking about for outreach, and individuals who you might be connected to, that whether it's someone that you work with or that you want to be involved in the agenda moving forward. So just wanted to open up that space. Go ahead and just use the raise hand feature, and you can share live too. We're ahead of schedule a little bit, which has never happened in these meetings. So we have a few minutes here. All right, let's go Bernadette and then Shannon. Go ahead.
One of the things I've been thinking about is putting information in places where people might go and spend time and be a little bored, like in the laundromat or in a barber shop. So information about the field, about jobs in the field, about the work being important, but not just the usual places, but places where people spend time and might be a little bored and actually pick up something and read it.
Thanks, Bernadette. That's a great idea. I know in terms of the agenda, sort of beyond programs and services and sort of the job postings. And I think that also links really well with the public education campaign idea and where might we want to think about promoting just the importance of early childhood more broadly. But I can share on our end from the early childhood agendas perspective, I know we've been thinking a lot about the tools that we can create for you all to support this. So whether it's family-friendly flyers or one-pagers, social media campaigns, tools like that. So once we transition to the website in a few minutes, we'll be able to share a little bit more about that as well. And then Liz, I see you have your hand up too. So why don't we go actually Liz, and then we'll do Shannon after that. So go ahead, Liz.
Hi, thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, this is my first meeting. I've attended a couple of workshops through Families First as a parent leader. And I was just thinking of maybe getting the information out to more families in a simplified way. Because even me, like attending this meeting for the first time now, I was a preschool teacher for 10 years before I had my kids. So like number one, I'm a nanny now. So like number one all the way. But a lot of the concepts even still go a little bit over my head. So just like the work is amazing. I didn't even know that there was all of this going on in the sector. So thank you for all you're doing, but just a way of like simplifying the data.
Such an important point. This is my own struggle especially, but when we were thinking through some of these like family-friendly flyers and how we can simplify the language, one of our interns over the summer actually did a lot of work on that, and I kept telling her, can you please turn my robot voice into like normal person speak? Because I think I was falling into that trap a lot. So that's a great thing. I'd love to actually follow up and see if there's any opportunities for partnership on that. Or I know we've been talking to Families First a lot about that piece moving forward. But yes, I think the language we're using is super important. So yes. All right, Shannon, do you want to finish off our comments here and then we'll go to the website?
Sure. Thank you, Marissa. First of all, this is so exciting, and congratulations to everyone involved in the early childhood agenda, because this work has been just so awesome. And my comment really is related to around the interconnectedness of the work groups. Like, for example, I joined work group 4, but I'm really interested in work group 9. And I think there's a lot of overlap, particularly in those 2 work groups. So I'm just curious about that. And maybe you probably already have plans, or we've thought about this before, but if you have, I've missed it. So thank you.
No, that's a great comment too. So that's sort of the last big piece of the puzzle that we haven't quite stood up yet. We've been thinking a lot about, one, we know people are so stressed for time, and we don't want to have a meeting on someone's calendar if it's not worthwhile. So we've been trying to think about what would be helpful, what would be important, what's the value add. And I think where we've landed is that we want to be able to host a sort of a learning community for the facilitators of the work groups, for the lived experience leaders as well. And then there's going to be a bunch of opportunities through that. So I think like the integration and collaboration piece for sure. And then one thing that we've talked about internally a lot has been, maybe it's sort of an agreement between 2 different work groups when we know that there's so much cross work that might happen between the 2, but we can say like, okay, you're going to focus on that in the workforce compensation group, and then we're going to focus on this piece of it in the quality infrastructure group as an example. So yes, I think that's kind of how we're thinking about it right now, but very open to suggestions, because we know that's a big piece moving forward. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing our website now, which I hope just worked. Can you all see the site? Yeah, okay. And I'm going to turn it over to Neri, who's our director of communications, and has been helping us to develop this over the past few months. And she'll do a little walkthrough of the site for you.
Could I actually share the website myself?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I think that'll be way easier. Okay.
We also should acknowledge that Neri is recording onto laptops. She's been behind the scenes, feverishly making sure we have a recording of the Spanish version and the English version. So Here, let's let you take a deep breath as you bring the site up. And also, I just have to say, in full appreciation for the work that Neri has done, not just for Strategies for Children, as she has helped us up our communications game, which hopefully you can see the evidence of. But we have learned many lessons in working with outside vendors when dealing with when creating this early childhood agenda website. And just the patience, the persistence, the follow up, the problem solving that Neri and our graphic designer Tanya Lazar and Marissa had to do over the last few months. If you remember, we tried to release it. It didn't quite work. Marissa had some windows still open, so we saw a sneak preview, but we are just so excited and relieved to be where we are today. So Neri, thank you so much. And I'll turn things back to you.
I'll add a few things to that, a few points to that, Amy, and thank you. So if you all have been following along in this journey for us for the past year, because it's going to be a year, I think, next month since the first convening of the agenda, we have tried to create a space online that was functional, that looks good, that really addresses the needs of this very growing community and evolving initiative. And so, sorry, I had to put on my recording hat on. So with all that said, we just want to thank people. We want to thank everyone who was a part in making this a possibility. Alyssa, our blog writer, gave us her skill set in just wordsmithing the website. Some of our interns help with feedback, our project managers, definitely our graphic designer, Tanya Lazar, the SFC team. It's just been such a journey. We started with a very basic turnkey website back in the fall of last year. We developed something that was ready for June and then broke. And so thank you so much for your grace over the summer to be able to put, to give us time to put this together. And so now I'm going to show you the website. Here you go. So this may look very familiar to some of you if you were around back in the spring, and it may look completely different to others that, that this is new for. So this is the homepage. Information about the agenda, the priorities, our partners, our kickoff video from back in January is on the homepage. The About Us section, mission, values. Thank you so much for everybody who lent us your images and your quotes to make this possible. Vision. This is everything I just showed you is basically things, up until June that you are probably already aware of. So we have action areas. These were the 5 work groups that we started with back in the fall, where we had all that robust engagement and participation. The priorities that we finally landed on, the 10 priorities broken up a little bit with for just, ease of comprehension and to be able to list the work groups and the coalitions a little better. If you go here, you can download the actual document. This is the revised version of the 2-pager.
Here's something a great focus.
Go back here. And so all of that information that I just showed you is pretty much static. The pieces that we want you to actually look at on a regular basis are join us. If you haven't already, sign up for a coalition, sign up for a working group, and these will be updated accordingly over time. Oops. And then this section is for partners. And this is the section that we want you to really come back to on a regular basis and check. So, actions and news. Anytime there's an action, if we want you to participate in a sign-on letter, if we want you to you know, participate in some action that we have going on. Or if you want to check back for something that's happening in the media, in the news, you can click here. Events. This is where we will list our events. We have our September meeting for today. We have our upcoming meeting in December. And you should also be able to see previous events, but it's not working right now.
Don't tempt the internet gods, Neri. Let's
fix it later. And then resources. We are also going to build this out. For now, we have quick links and then the communications toolkit as two categories. So if you want to go back and watch all of the previous recordings of agenda meetings, you can go to the YouTube playlist. This is where we'll keep all the view meeting materials from previous meetings, link to Basecamp, and then the communications toolkit. And the communications toolkit will include everything from how to get involved on social media, suggested messaging and things like that. And so we're going to actually put them in a Google Doc. And this is just a preview of what we have. We have the flyer for today. And then we have the flyer for December. So save the date to join us in December for the next iteration of this. And if you are interested in building out our communications capacity, please email me directly so that you can join the communications team. Some of the things that we are thinking about as far as this website and how to be more accessible and expand our reach are things like creating a library of resources in multiple languages, making sure that the website is accessible to all, regardless of abilities, just trying to make it as inclusive as possible. And we want to also highlight all of the work that is being done at the work group or coalition level. So as you all are meeting and creating and developing things, we want to be able to pull out those actionable items or those updates and be able to communicate them well on the website for everyone to share. So it's, a one-stop shop for everybody. And then finally, follow us on social media. Right now, all of these buttons lead to Strategies for Children's social media. But in the future, if there's enough interest and capacity, we might dedicate a channel or two specifically for the agenda. And that's it for now.
Can we please share some emoji love for the website and for Neri and the team that helps get this website going? We usually don't promote, we don't kind of emoji technical things, but it really has been incredible. And I think back to the model of like, how do you balance all the coalitions and the work group and people's different schedules of engagement? As we've said over and over, we couldn't have done this with everybody's help and support. But to really kind of get down to it and say, like, how do you design a website that can be interactive, can be responsive, can be proactive, and can be accurate and just up to date? We know things are moving so fast. We also know that people are doing the work. And so we wanted to kind of balance all of those pieces. So thank you so much, Neri.
I also just want to use Amy's favorite sort of feedback tool, which is Plus Delta, which is that, this is like everything with the early childhood agenda, a work in progress. So if you notice things that are working well on the website, let us know. If you notice things that aren't working well on the website and have some suggestions, let us know. We are always open to feedback throughout this process. All right, so I see that we have about 9 minutes left. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about next steps, and then we should have a few minutes left for just some questions, comments, general thoughts.
All right, you know what, Marissa, maybe go through especially because those slides were, just reiterate what Neri said, go back to the website slides for the drop down menus.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the two main places that we really want to direct people to on this site are the For Partners tab and the Join Us tab. So for, I think you can go to the next slide actually, Jeremy. I think that one, or actually maybe go back to, and it has Join Us. Oh, never mind. I made that up. Okay. That's the one. Okay. So for Join Us, that's really meant to be the recruitment place. So if you're becoming a partner of the Early Childhood Agenda, if this is your first time at a meeting, your first time hearing about it, and you want to, one, stay connected. So to sign up for the full Early Childhood Agenda mailing list, that's where we send out these monthly newsletters and where we are communicating over email. So you can see that button. There's an arrow to it on the right-hand side there. And then as Neri showed you, there's the bunch of links at the bottom that have sign-up forms for coalitions and then the sign-up Google form for the work groups. So that's how you can get directly involved with either of those two pathways there. And then if we go back a little bit, sorry, I did this backwards, but the For Partners page, that's really meant to be a resource for you all. So whether you are looking for actions that you can take, that's where we're going to post. So as an example, all of the coalition action updates that we talked about today, those are going to be on the site this week. I'm going to go ahead and add those in there so that you'll be able to see them there. When there's news or just sort of a general update that we want to share with you all, we're going to post it there. Events, we talked about that one. And then the resources page, we're really building out a lot of things for that. So that's where we want to, I think, Liz, to like your earlier point, when we're thinking about family-friendly language and just simple things that we can create that you all can use, that's where we're going to post a lot of those resources. So those two pages especially are ones we wanted to make sure everyone takes a look at. And I also have to just say, in addition to all the other people we thanked, but we know that we hosted a few focus groups as we developed the agenda too. And for those of you that were able to join that and that gave us feedback throughout the process, thank you. That was very helpful. And we're looking forward to, continue working on it moving forward.
I just want to add, we're using the 9:30 call as also a way to highlight some of the areas, give folks opportunities for updates. We also are going to start up the 9:30 call at night. We're going to have a once a month meeting that is a little bit more of a kind of a discussion free form. We will send the date, but it's October 12th, Thursday, October 12th at 6:30 will be the next 9:30 call at night. And so we know folks can't always join us in the morning. So we figure between the 9:30 call, the Early Childhood Agenda quarterly meetings, and the work groups, we really see these feedback loops working together. And so stay tuned for more information about the 9:30 call at night on October 12th.
Forgetting that I'm supposed to be talking at this meeting and not just typing in the chat, but I was about to respond to Shannon and Brian's comments there about sort of just what participation looks like and how there's so many resources on Basecamp and there's a lot there, but wanting to connect that to some of the individuals who are actually facilitating those organizations or facilitating those work groups. And we talked actually last night at the workforce compensation meeting, we talked a lot about afterwards that there's no right way to participate, whether it's coming to a meeting or it's participating in the group map or it's using Basecamp and using the message boards or reading through the documents. We heard from someone who works in the early education and care sector last night that she was thrilled to be at the meeting. It was hosted at 6 p.m. and it was the only one that she's been able to attend live, but that she's been watching the recordings for some of the other ones and following along that way. So yes, I think one of the things that we're still thinking about is like how to link up Basecamp and the website and make sure that they are supporting each other and making it clear how to use both of these features and how you can be involved. All right, so the last bit we wanted to share here is just next steps. So we're gonna get some of those updates onto the website so that you have your action steps ready to go this week to support recruitment. So that group map will remain open. Sign up for the work groups, sign up for the coalitions. And then I saw Titus put in the chat a few minutes ago, save the date for our winter convening. We planned ahead and we are ready to go for our December 19th, 2023 convening from 12:30 to 2 p.m. So you'll have that date on the calendar, and we're going to work to get some of these other dates ready to go so that planning is a little bit easier moving forward too, and that we have those schedules ready to go. We have 4 minutes left, so I want to just open the floor and see if there's any comments, any thoughts, any questions that are lingering.
Well, 4 minutes on 9:30 call time. Might as well be a half an hour.
So true.
One of the things I'm gonna go off script. I would love everybody, if you can, to put 1 or 2 words in the chat, but don't hit send yet. I learned this in a meeting. So as we're taking question and answers, just put right now 1 word in the chat about how you're feeling, kind of what you experienced at this meeting, 1 word, and then we'll do a 3, 2, 1, and then everybody will hit their send at the same time, and we're gonna have I think it's a chat fall, right? So like a waterfall. And so I see Beth has her hands up, and Melora, so you can see that the December 19th is the next meeting for the agenda, the quarterly meeting. So everybody get their word in chat, and we'll go to Beth first, and then at 1:59 we're gonna hit go for all the words. So Beth, I'll turn things over to you. Great to see you.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to say back to earlier talking about the food and how amazing it is that kids in public school can get lunch for free and all the children in the state. There is a bill, which I don't have, I can't put the info in the chat right now because I don't have it, but there is a bill that combines the tiers that family child care providers, some center-based programs. I'm not explaining this well, but there is the tiers that are going to be 1 tier instead of 2. So more 0 to 5 kids can actually get nutritious lunches because providers will be paid a much better wage, because in July it went from everybody getting $5.70 per child per day to like 2 something for half of the providers in the state, which you can't even feed like 1 day off of that. And
Right.
so anyways, I'm botching it. But
I think
not at all.
helpful. We can get the information and kind of include it in the follow-up, Beth. I just want to say we are so excited to be working with Project Red. You know, while they had this enormous legislative victory, they hear us about birth to 5. They are, really thinking about kind of where they can help use their voice and their organization to kind of keep moving this. So we may follow up with you, Beth, so we make sure that we have the information that you are sharing, and then we'll make sure that we get it out to folks. And I think again, like the work groups, like that would be a great place either to just, that's a great way to like tell us the information. We'll make sure that we kind of connect back with the work group. So thanks for that, Beth.
Beth, can I put you on the spot real quick also?
Okay, we'll go.
I just have a question too, because we've been thinking a lot about the time for this meeting, and we were doing it at 10 earlier, and we switched it to 12:30 to 2. And I actually had you in my mind when we were talking about this, because this is typically nap time. Does this work better for people who are with kids during the day?
I mean, it works better for me because I have kids that nap. I know some programs that have babies, it's hard regardless, but it certainly opens it to more providers who are at nap time and could at least jump on for part of the day.
Have an ear. Yeah.
Okay.
That's really helpful.
Perfect.
Okay, we're going to do our chat fall. So your 1 word about how you're feeling right now, put it in chat, and then you're going to hit the blue send button. So 3, 2, 1, chat fall. These are great. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to end on time. One of our values, which we try to stick to. Appreciate you all for joining us and for the work that you're doing every day. Please stay in touch. Connect with any of us, all of us, whatever is the most helpful. If you have an idea for a guest for the 9:30 call, let me know, or a topic you want to hear more about. And we will definitely see you in the work groups and see you on December 19th. Take care and thank you.